Today the topic is about secret to inner peace and happiness. The reason why I chose this, the topic, the secret to inner peace and happiness, is because of the department you are involved is the peace study, isn't it? Nonviolence and peace study. So I believe, and also His Holiness says that without inner disarmament, it is very difficult to achieve genuine, lasting world peace. World peace must develop from inner peace. So that's the reason why I am trying to touch on this topic, because we may hold great aspirations to really forge a great peace on this whole world. But His Holiness is saying that without inner peace within ourselves, if we are individually unhappy and there is so much turmoil within us, then it is impossible to really spread peace to others. So first, in order to help others or to spread or to forge this peace or peaceful environment, to create a peaceful environment, whether it be to your neighbors or to a bigger settings like your workplace or your classrooms. And if you think in a bigger way than the whole world, we first need to cultivate this inner peace. We need to be happy ourselves. We need to be free from all that turmoil and mental anguish. So I am going to try to touch on how we can do that. So His Holiness says that through inner disarmament, we can develop a healthy mental attitude, which also is very beneficial for physical health. With peace of mind, a calm mind, your body elements become more balanced. Constant worry, constant fear, agitation of mind are very bad for health. Therefore, peace of mind not only brings tranquility in our mind, but also has good effects on our body. So we can clearly understand what it means that, without inner disarmament, there will be no peace in our mind, and as a result, it can have detrimental effect on our physical body. So in order to benefit both our mind and body, we need to cultivate this inner peace. So this raises the question, what do we want? What is our fundamental aspiration? We do all sorts of things. If I ask you why you are here today, you may have, on the surface, you may have various reasons. But deep down, we all have the same aspiration, what is known as the fundamental aspiration, which is to be happy. Even the tiniest insects has the same aspiration as ours. They also, whatever they do, they move around, they look for food, they look for shelter. It's all driven by this fundamental aspiration to be happy and to avoid suffering. That is the real trigger, the real thing that propels us to do things. On the surface may say, oh, I want to learn something about. I want to gain some insights on this topic. But why? Why do you need to gain insight into this? Because deep down, we are hoping that through this somehow it can contribute to our happiness and contribute towards reducing the suffering that we are experiencing. So from the Buddhist point of view, we talk about countless lives in the past. But even if we don't talk about this, until from birth to until now, we have been doing all these things in order to achieve that. But now, how successful we have been. So this, our condition, our situation, is well captured by a great Indian scholar, Shantideva. Shantideva says, although wishing to be rid of misery, they run towards misery itself. Although wishing to have happiness, like an enemy, they ignorantly destroy it. I really like this because this really captures the essence of our situation. Who doesn't wish to get rid of misery? We all do. We all want to get rid of misery. But no matter whatever we do, we end up with suffering, with misery. It's like we are running towards misery itself. And then although we wish to experience happiness, but it says like an enemy, we destroy it. So why and how? We can argue. Who wants to destroy one's own happiness? Nobody. So the key lies in the word ignorantly. Despite this fundamental aspiration, Shantideva is saying that we are ignorant of the causes and conditions that give rise to happiness. Because of that, we voluntarily create and accumulate the causes and conditions that give rise to suffering. Although we wish to be we wish to be happy, but we always fail to cultivate the causes and conditions that give rise to happiness. As a result, we end up experiencing suffering instead of happiness. So now something must be wrong. We must be doing something wrong. So we have this when I say, of course, when Shantideva says that we run towards misery itself. So we are so engrossed in cultivating the causes and conditions that we believe to produce happiness, which is unfortunately a mistaken view. For instance, money. Who doesn't like money? Who doesn't chase after money? Who doesn't pursue materialism? We believe that money can guarantee happiness. And it's very interesting. There's a survey done with the millennials asking about their most important life goals. What are their most important life goals? And surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, over 80% of the participants said that the major life goal for them is to be rich. So the question now is, can money buy lasting happiness? Of course, we know that money can buy temporary happiness. But we are talking about lasting happiness. So there has been so many research done on income and happiness. I think one famous researcher in this field is called Easterlin. So that's why we have this term, Easterlin paradox. So he has done so much research into the income, the impact of income on happiness. And he has noted that, for example, in Japan, there have been several times the huge rise in income, but the happiness level hasn't increased. So this one is a very telling, very clear indication of whether income has impact on happiness. Of course, if you have more money, you can solve many problems, and there is. But what we are talking about is once you reach that subsistence levels, when you no longer need to fight for, or when you are no longer struggling for your basic needs, once you have arrived at that level, then having more money has any impact. So they say that it is curvilinear. The correlation is curvilinear. It plateaus. After you reach a certain level, it plateaus. It doesn't make much impact, positive impact. So in this GDP, the economy, so here you see that, of course, there's a full list of the countries, but where does America stand in terms of GDP? Is the number one in terms of economy. United States ranks the first. However, when it comes to the ranking of happiness, where do you see America? It's number 18. But the last report was, I think, number 19. There was a little bit of improvement. But you see, when it comes to happiness, all these countries, Scandinavian countries, Finland, Denmark, Switzerland, Iceland, Norway, they tend to rank higher. But when it comes to economy, you don't see them at the top range. So if economy, if money has real positive impact, then you should see the correlation. As the GDP rises, the happiness level should go up. But you don't see that. That suggests that money has little positive impact on our happiness. And look at this, the general happiness, US adults, social survey. And over the years, in terms of advancement in technology and in terms of facility, there has been a tremendous improvement, advancement. So here, this is where I was talking about. You see the United States here. When then it comes to the ranking of happiness, it is only at number 18. And then look at this trend. General happiness, US adults. So in 1975, you can see it's quite up here. And now, this is 2013 to 2015, it has plummeted. So if the facility and the, what you call the economy has positive impact, then it should be going all the way up. 3-4 decades ago, we don't have facilities such as air conditioner. If you feel it is cold weather, too bad. You just have to bundle up. If it's too hot, maybe you can take 5 times, you can bathe 5 times a day. That's all you can do. But nowadays, everything is at the tip of your finger. You don't even have to get up and press the button. You can ask, what is that, Alexa or something? Alexa, can you please turn on? Can you please increase the temperature? Can you please reduce? So in terms of advancement, it has been massive. But all this indicates that it doesn't have much impact on our happiness level. And look at the young people. We are seeing the same trend. All plummeting, the happiness level plummeting. If money or economy has a positive impact, if money really buys happiness, this shouldn't be the case. And then another thing that we have this misconception is that fame and status and power is another thing that we chase after. We believe that fame and status and power can bring us happiness. But how true is that? Is there truth in it? Let's see. 20 famous actors who committed suicide. These are famous people who has all the fame. Why would they commit suicide if they are happy? Suicide happens when they are not happy. They are in so much pain. 10 celebrities with heroin addiction. Why? They are celebrities. Why shouldn't they have to resort to all these drugs? Because they are not happy. There is inner turmoil, mental anguish. In order to escape from this mental anguish, they resort to these drugs to achieve or to attain temporary relief. Hollywood addictions, 24 stars who died from an overdose. All these points, or all this suggests that fame, status, does not guarantee happiness. Power is so, what do you call, fragile, so insecure, so impermanent. One day you are the leader of the world. You are the most powerful person in the world. But the next minute, you are nobody. We hear news about political leaders. In the morning, they are the head of the state. By evening, they are in jail. So all this, it doesn't guarantee. So there are explanations why these do not guarantee. escalation of aspiration. Why money does not guarantee? Why fame and all this does not guarantee happiness? It's because people rarely feel their material goals are being achieved. Sorry, I have to keep removing this. Can you still see me?
Yes.
Okay. So escalation of aspirations. People rarely feel that their material goals are being achieved. So one reason is because of this. Our aspirations escalate. This is very evident when we first get our second-hand car, the first car. Before we get the car, we feel that I will be so happy and so satisfied if I get a car, no matter whether it is a new car or an old car. And when we get the second-hand car, we are so happy. We are feeling over the moon. And then how long does that last? Maybe after 3 months, 4 months, we started to see faults. We started to see shortcomings of this car. And we already started eyeing for a new car, wishing that we had a better car. So this is what we call hedonic adaptation. We have this tendency for tendency to get accustomed to the better facilities. So since there is no limit to all this better facility, the more we get, the more we wish for the better ones. So that's why I have an image here of the seawater. The more you drink the seawater, the thirstier you become. It will never quench our thirst. And the second is discrepancy between the desire state and the current state. People rarely feel, the feeling of distance from one's material goal. So according to this desire theory, the happiness is about fulfilling one's desire. So according to this, one would be happy when one gets what one seeks. But first of all, it is impossible to fulfill all our desires. Desire is limitless. And there is this study done. They ask people what would make their life happier. So those who are earning $5,000 a month, they say that they would be happier if they get $10,000 a month. And then the same question when asked to those who are earning $10,000, they say that they would be happier if they are paid $20,000. And those who earn $50,000, they say that they would be happier, their life would be better if they are paid $100,000. So from this we can see that there is no way we will be able to fill that gap. There will always be a gap because our desire has no limit. The more we get, the more we want. And then this, mainly all this is because of the absence of contentment. From our own experience, we have this tendency to complain about what we don't have. Our focus is always on what we don't have. Our obsession is on what we lack instead of focusing on what we have. So when we lack that contentment, when we lack this focus of looking and appreciating what we have, that creates this gap, this discrepancy between have and want. And the danger is that wants tend to exceed haves. Another reason is the social relationship, because social relationships are a key ingredient for a happy life. So what happens is, when we are so focused on making money and when we pursue fame and all that, we have to spend so much time making money. That reduces the time for us to spend quality time with our family and friends. In order to make more money, you need to work more hours. You have to do overtime. You have to work even on weekends. So when you give your time on your work, if work becomes your priority, you ignore or neglect your family, your friends, and you hardly spend time with them. And that's one reason why pursuit of materialism is detrimental. So there is this, as I mentioned earlier about this social relationship, there is this longitudinal study. So I urge you to watch, because if I am to show here, it is quite long and it will take time. So this study started in 1938 and it's still ongoing. So the main finding is that good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Not only that, people who are more socially connected to family, friends, community are happier, healthier, and live longer. So that there is this relationship between the pursuit of materialism. When we are obsessed with all that material things, you lose these ingredients, the key ingredients for happiness, happier life. So if your time permits, I urge you to watch this. This is good. So let me show you this. Our habit.
काश मैं एक हेलीकॉप्टर खरीद सकता। वाओ, कितनी प्यारी स्पोर्ट्स कार है। काश ये गाड़ी में अफोर्ड कर सकता। Man, I wish I had a car too. यार, काश मैं एक साइकिल खरीद सकता। काश मेरे पैर सलामत होते और मैं चल सकता।
So you see that our greed has no limit. We always fail to appreciate what we have. Without contentment, this is what happens. give man everything he wants, and in the very same moment he will decide that this everything is not quite everything. So as long as we don't have this contentment, the whole wealth, all the wealth in the world is not enough for us. We will be never satisfied, even if we are able to get all the wealth in the whole world. So that's what we have been doing. Our fundamental aspiration is happiness, wanting to be happy and not wanting to experience suffering. And we have been pursuing all these, we have been chasing after all this, hoping that all this will produce or bring lasting happiness. So this is what in Einstein's view is like what we are doing is insane. We are insane because he defines insanity as doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So we need to make change. We know that that doesn't work. If it is workable, if it is feasible, it would have already, we would have already accomplished that. But we haven't. So that this suggests that we are doing something wrong. We are not doing the proper way. So what is the proper way? Let's watch this. Maybe you have seen this, but I really like this.
เขาจะได้อะไรถ้าเขาทำแบบนี้ทุกวันเขาจะไม่ได้อะไรเลยไม่ได้รวยขึ้นไม่ได้ออกทีวีไม่มีใครรู้จักไม่ได้มีชื่อเสียงที่มากขึ้นเพราะสิ่งที่เขาได้คือได้แค่ความรู้สึกได้เห็นความสุขได้เข้าใจได้ความรักได้ในสิ่งที่เงินซื้อไม่ได้ได้โลกที่สวยงามกว่าเดิมในชีวิตคุณอะไรคือสิ่งที่คุณต้องการมากที่สุด
ไทยประกันชีวิตเชื่อในความดี
So this, even though this is not a real take, but we get the point that this illustrates the point that in order to be happy, you don't need to be rich and wealthy and famous. You can still be happy through other means by making some changes to your attitude. Look at this. This young boy who is standing on that number first, the number one stand. But he doesn't look like he's happy. But look at the number 3, the boy on the number 3 stand. He seems so happy. And look at this image. Who says you need to have a smartphone to enjoy a selfie? So what does all this suggest? That happiness is a state of mind. Happiness have to come from within. This is our habit. Look at this. We complain. There is no sense of appreciation. There is no feeling of gratitude. So happiness must come from within. So this is one of my favorite quotes from Shantideva's text. Where would I find enough leather to cover the entire surface of the earth? But with leather soles beneath my feet, it's as if the whole world has been covered. The problem with our approach to happiness is that we try to fix external things, external conditions, like chasing after money, chasing after fame, status, power. First of all, these are very hard to get. Even if you are able to achieve that, it doesn't really provide the happiness. So here, Shantideva says that, where would I find enough leather? If we need to walk in a jungle which has a lot of thorns, if we walk with our bare foot, all those thorns will prick our heel. So in order to escape from those thorny pricks, if we decide to cover the whole jungle with the leather, it says we would not find enough leather. But what we can do is we just need to put on our shoes. And that is actually similar to covering that whole forest. Likewise, there is no way we can fix the external conditions. If you fix one thing, another thing needs to be fixed. There will be no end to external conditions that needs fixing. But whereas, if we fix our attitude, if we do something about our mental attitude, our way of thinking, if we make some changes, bring some inner transformation, inner changes, then it is similar to fixing all the external conditions. This is consistent with the positive psychology, this ABCD model. So positive psychology also talk about ABCD model. So A is the activating event, and then you have the B for belief system, and then you have consequences. And then later you can dispute. Of course, this is for the therapy. So main point is external events are not the determinants of one's emotions and behavior. For instance, if we have an incident, activating event, if you hear about a terrible news, So if, let's say, if two persons hear the same devastating news, but the response will be different. One person may respond so negatively and so badly, but maybe the other one not. So if it is the activating event that determines our emotion and behavior, then the response should be uniformed. Everybody should have the same response, but not. People respond differently. It is because of this belief system. People interpret differently. And because of this belief system, because of the way we interpret, the consequences is also different. So one's interpretation or beliefs are the determining factor. So this is similar to what Shantideva is saying there, what Shantideva was saying. It is something to do with our inner attitude, our mental attitude. Another one is the stress model. We are all familiar with stress. All the problems are finger pointed at stress. It is because of stress, it is because of stress. So stress, there are two types of stress. We need certain degree of stress. Without that, we cannot function. The optimum level of stress is good to have. So that is called the eustress. And then when you exceed that optimum level, that becomes distress. So whether a stress becomes a eustress or distress depends solely on our appraisal of the situation. If we have a situation, let's say for me, like giving this talk, that's the situation. If I view or appraise that situation as a threat, as a chore, as something damaging, then what will happen is I will experience distress. Whereas if I view this as a challenge or an opportunity, then instead of experiencing distress, I will experience eustress. So that's why whether we experience stress at work or not is also how we appraise our work. That's why in positive psychology, finding meaning, ascribing meaning to what we do is so important. Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche says that he who has why to live for can manage anyhow. So let's say for whatever you are, let's say in a university, if you are a professor there teaching, if you appraise your job or if you view your job as an opportunity to really help students learn new things, to pass on the knowledge, then every day you will look forward to coming to class, going to university. There is joy, there is fun. And when you go back before going to sleep, there is so much satisfaction. Whereas if you view that job as a chore, I have no choice, it's a duty, I need to earn money, so I have to do this, then it becomes miserable. You will lose all that fun, and then you will dread. When Sunday ends, you will be dreading because tomorrow you have to go back to work. Whereas if you find meaning and joy in your work, you will look forward to it. Oh, it's now already Sunday. Tomorrow I can go back to work. So even the stress model highlights the importance of our attitude. So now, after going through all this, So how can we now go about? What time is it? Okay, I will start. So His Holiness suggests this, the two-pronged approach. Reduce or regulate destructive emotions. So we talk about happiness must come from within. So we must make changes within us. So one way of making that change is through reducing the emotions that are causing unhappiness. For instance, anger, hatred, jealousy. Like anger, for example, hatred, for example. The moment it arises within us, it destroys our peace of mind. If you have hatred against somebody else, and if you try to sleep, see how does it work. You will lose your sleep. You won't be able to fall asleep. So the best thing is to really, the main goal is to eradicate that, to eliminate all these destructive emotions. If we cannot do that, at least try to regulate all these emotions. So we always talk about in positive psychology, we talk about, we differentiate between reacting and responding. So let's say anger, for instance. Our normal tendency is to react. It's like the reflex. Somebody hurls you an insult, what do? You react. Whereas response is different. So you pause. You don't give control to your anger. You are the one who decides what to do, what kind of action you want to take, or inaction in some cases. So that's what we call respond. So that's one way of regulating destructive emotions. That's on the one hand. On the one hand, we can do that. On the other hand, we need to enhance or cultivate the positive qualities. Just now we talked about this contentment, gratitude, loving kindness, compassion, whatnot, caring for others. If we don't have that, then cultivate. If we already possess those qualities, then try to enhance it, try to habituate in that mental state. Familiarize in that, so that it becomes our second nature. So if we are able to do that, so time is up, so that's one way. Of course, I am really condensing everything here. And all that can be boiled down to what His Holiness says. World peace must develop from inner peace. Peace is not just mere absence of violence. Peace is, I think, the manifestation of human compassion. So when we are able to develop compassion, not only to our circle of people, we have compassion. We have compassion for those who are within our circle, within our group, those whom we label as my family and my friends and all that. We have compassion, but that kind of compassion is very spotlighted, very narrow. We need to extend that. If we are able to genuinely extend that compassion to all sentient beings, to all the people, then the earlier one, all these regulating destructive emotions, it can contribute to all this. There's no way you can, there's no room for anger when you really have compassion for others. And then we talk about other, what we call the unwholesome deeds, like harming others. This will never happen if we are able to generate genuine compassion. So how to develop compassion can be another topic for next time. So I will end here. So there, I talk about gratitude, which there are studies showing how effective. Just counting our blessings every evening, just counting our blessings, why we are, reasons, just thinking of reasons to be grateful. Even if you do that for 2 weeks, they say that the result is remarkable. The happiness level really shoots up. So these are simple things we can do. Instead of focusing on what we lack, if we're able to see, the good things that happen in our life. So one time I was reading this book. It's all about people's essay on gratitude. So one title caught my eyes. It says, I am grateful that nothing happened. And that really aroused my curiosity. I was like, normally we say that, oh, I'm grateful because this good thing happened to me. But here it says, I'm grateful because nothing happened. So I read it, and it is true. That family was expecting, I think during one of the hurricanes, and it was forecasted that the hurricane will pass their house, but eventually it changed the course and didn't struck their house. So that's why they were saying that we are grateful that nothing happened. It is very true. While we are all, having this conversation, anything could happen. The floor, the building could collapse. Something would go wrong. But didn't happen. While driving to work, anything could happen. Accident could happen. Some people may, without any reason, may mug you or rob you or hassle you or harass you. Anything can happen. But all this not happen. But are we grateful for all this? No, we take everything for granted. That's the problem. So if we are able to really count our blessings, then there's more reason to be happy about. And that's a small step we can take, which is not too difficult. So with that, I end my talk, and then maybe I can try to take some questions.
Okay, Mr. Rinpoche, thank you so much for your talk. Could you tell us how those countries that you had on your first slide measured happiness?
I didn't really go into the details. I think there are few components, not just normally we use the happiness scale, but I didn't go into, I'm sorry that I didn't go into the scales, what kind of questionnaires they used, what kind of measurements they use. But I noticed that they do use a component. It's not just one factor. So I think there's some social relation, all this combined together to say, to measure the happiness. So I don't have a clear answer to your questions.
Sure.
Yeah, maybe when you see the slides later, you can Google. I think it is available. It's called Happiness Report. So they explain in detail how they measured that happiness.
Thank you.
My question is, thank you again, Rinpoche, for students who might find themselves in challenging situations, sometimes difficult with the stress of being in a new environment and the added stress of, COVID precautions on the campus, how can they develop that positive habit of compassion and develop it inside if the environment is challenging and doesn't always support that development of positive habits? Thank you.
Yeah, normally we say that difficult situation provides the best opportunity to develop compassion. So when we are in that kind of situation where everybody is suffering, so that actually you can, relate to, especially when you are also going through that, because that can develop your empathy. So you can now, it's not an intellectual. So you can now see now I understand what kind of pain and experience they are going through, because I myself feel it. So that will boost our empathy. With that kind of empathy, so now that you have clear understanding of what kind of suffering they are undergoing, so with that clear in mind, compassion is you first need to perceive the other person's suffering. So normally, when we look at people, everybody appear seemingly happy. So if you are to cultivate or develop compassion, it is very hard. Whereas if you see a poor dog filled with, ridden with maggots and really suffering, of course, compassion is easy to arise. But whereas when everybody seems seemingly happy and things are going well, it is hard to develop compassion. But when you are in that kind of situation, where everybody is going through some kind of suffering, that's the time we can develop. That's the time where we should grab that opportunity. And the more you feel their pain, the more compassion will arise. That's one thing. The other thing is also where you focus. Despite all that negative things happening, but there are also good things happening. We just close one eye, you see. So when good things happen, I normally give this example. Let's say if you score 9 A's and 1 B in 10 subjects, if you are expecting to score all 10, your focus is that you will be so unhappy because you only score B for one subject. You didn't score all the 10 A's. But whereas another person who scores 9 B's, he will be so happy. Oh, I pass. Some people are even happy that they pass. They didn't fail. So it's all about what we choose to focus. So in these times, since there are lots of negativities, but we can still counter that by focusing on good things happening. Or at least, this could be even worse. But at least I have this and this and that. And how many people are even worse than mine? So we really need to look at things, comparingly. And that will help us to appreciate our situation more. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you. Beautifully said. It's something that we can take in ourselves and also teach with students or share with students, that's a time that they should be reflective and more compassionate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there one specific thing you would recommend that students or teachers do during this time of the pandemic and quarantine? Because I know it's very hard on people to help them achieve a sense of inner happiness or start working towards it.
Yeah, I think it's as I mentioned to the earlier. So that's one thing you can do. Counting your blessings, good things. You are still there. You are still getting the opportunity to study despite all this, and people are kind. And for all of us to have to continue our studies, many people are doing all kinds of things just to ensure that we are safe and all these programs are not interrupted. So there's another reason to generate appreciation for others. There's also one way to cultivate compassion. Because in order to compare, when we talk about generating compassion, it all comes to seeing the other persons, this sense of developing this sense of endearment towards that person. So one way to do is by reflecting how kind the other person is. So when we see the great many benefits they provide, many helps they provide to us, then naturally we develop this sense of endearment. So with that, compassion automatically arises. So that's another way to work towards cultivating compassion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, reflecting on others' kindness. That's the point.
First, I just wanted to say thank you for the presentation. It was great. And then my question is, besides meditation, what do you do on a daily basis? Just a few things besides meditation that you do to ensure that you always have a positive and happy mindset and to achieve that happiness.
Yeah, in my case, I have been very, very lucky because I am now the resident teacher of a Buddhist center here. So I teach 2 classes, one to English-speaking people and another to Tibetan people in the Tibetan community. So because of that, I have to prepare my class. So I do a lot of reading. So even though when I was in monastery, I didn't really get to read all this. But now that I have time, and then because presenting the class demands your preparation, I spend most of the time actually mostly reading the text and then preparing. So apart from the daily prayers and all that, I do that. And then every now and then, normally from the morning, I try to set up this motivation to be mindful of my actions. So throughout the day, as and when I remember, I recite this. There is a verse to generate bodhicitta. I don't know whether you are familiar with that or not. So there is a verse, Kunjo Sumla Thayuji. So every now and then, as and when I remember my that determination in the morning, so I recite that to kind of reinforce that. So in that sense, I'm very, very lucky. So from the Buddhist point of view, I'm able to spend most of my time in a virtuous way. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Hello, thank you for coming out and sharing the presentation with us. I was just wondering if somebody used to have an activity or a hobby that they used to gain a lot of happiness and find a lot of pleasure in, and that kind of got lost or disappeared. Do you think that the person should still do these things in order to find that happiness again, or kind of move on and find another source or hobby to spend their time doing?
I think it depends on whether the one that you really like or one that kind of guarantees happiness is doable again. It is feasible to do again. If it is doable, then why not? If that is not doable, if it's not feasible, then find something else. There are many other things you can venture. We always have this kind of, I told you about how we appraise the situation. So instead of saying, oh, I have one thing that I know now no more, you can look at it as, oh, now that I don't have this one, oh, maybe there's another opportunity to explore other new things. Maybe I can find something that can even give more or produce more happiness. So if we are able to adopt that kind of attitude, then you don't feel that, you see, losing that activity, because to you is another opportunity to explore new things. Maybe you can try with that attitude.
Hi, thank you so much for coming out too. I was just kind of wondering, do you think it's realistic for this kind of mindset to be instilled in our education system? Because I know even like growing up, we're kind of forced into this, like you go to school and you're super busy. So do you think it's realistic for schools to kind of teach young kids to be able to take a step back and understand that there's more to life than, as you said, like getting a good grade and be able to focus on the true meaning of school rather than just the studying?
Of course, for young children, of course, it is difficult. It is difficult for them to understand. But those who can really think about, those who can contemplate, yeah, it is time to really contemplate. What am I doing? Is this really what I want? And what am I doing? Does it really fulfill my fundamental aspiration or what I really want to achieve? So sometimes it is good to pause and contemplate, ponder, Normally we have become so automated that, wind blows here, we are swayed to that direction. And another wind comes from here, we don't really think through. So sometimes it is good to, okay, let me just think, let me just contemplate. So that's the whole idea of meditation, not just blank out, So really think about what has happened, what am I doing, what I really, deep down, what is that I really want. Not just because people say this, people do this. So we tend to do that. Or this is the norm, so I should be doing, no matter what you really want. Because the danger is, if you don't act or pursue according to your deep down feelings, what will happen is, even if you are able to get a high degree, and then you may land into a great job, a high paying job, but you won't find joy in doing that. You don't find meaning in that. Then it is really a torture. So every day is really a torture. Yeah. So no matter whether it is what do you call, viewed by other as a good career or not, as long as your heart in it, if you find joy in doing that, go for it.
Hi, thank you for giving the presentation. My question is, if we know people who have negative mindsets toward work or school or anything like that, how do we help them see the purpose in activity and help them to gain a positive mindset instead of a negative one?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe you can talk to them, but of course we have to be very careful. We can talk, we can discuss, but not to impose our views. Sometimes we feel that we are really doing service to the other person, but what we are really doing is we are just imposing our wish, our thought. You think that this is the right, the person is doing the wrong way, but you never know. You may be mistaken. So we have to be very careful when we offer advice. Even when we offer advice, we have to be very skillful. Try to, navigate our advice and see whether the person is open to your suggestion or not. Otherwise, you meant well, but then, other person may take it badly. So, yeah, the main key is be skillful. Can I ask one question?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So you are all here because of your interest, or it's part of your curriculum where a kind of, assignment that you are required to sign up and attend one of these talks?
In my case, it's just because I love to know more about how to be a better person. I'm from Arizona, and I think everybody was asking the right question. I was trying to find out one to ask you, and thank you. I was late, but I was wondering, again, because of my job, but I was thinking, something that I'm always curious about, especially with this COVID-19, is that in general, I am a very positive person. I try to do as much as I can in my own way to be a better person, like I said. However, it has been challenging for me based on what is happening around me. I'm so used to be around people, and this isolation is not really something that I enjoyed, right? So what is, in your experience, what is helping you to deal better with isolation? That would be my question, because I know that could hurt me so much in being the kind of person that I am.
Yeah, I don't know how helpful my answer would be, because I am kind of a deviant from normal people. I like to be home alone, so I'm not really outgoing person. So people say that you are a homebody. I just like to stay home. So for me, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's there or not, for me, yeah, I didn't really feel the difference. Yeah. So anyway, but I can understand that those people, who like to socialize, it must be very, very tough, very challenging. So maybe even though you cannot meet personally, you can always call over the phone, have a chat, kind of Zoom. We have all this facility, Zoom and all that.
Thank you, Rinpoche. Thank you, Rinpoche. I received some response. Some people saying because of their interest. Some people say because they are studying Buddhism. Some say they're trying to live non-violently. So yes, some response like that.
Okay, so good, admirable. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate your interest.
Also, Rinpoche, I see one question that says, what is the line between finding happiness and using anger for activism or protest for a good cause? How do you or can you do both?
Yeah, I will just repeat what His Holiness says. His Holiness says that anger is not a good thing all the time. You feel that anger gives you a courage, but His Holiness says that that's a false courage. Because when you acted upon your anger, your mind is already clouded. You are not really able to think through. And the result is later so much regret. I shouldn't have said so. That's why we say that, oh, I'm so sorry because I was angry at that time, I said this and this. We blame on anger. So this shows that anger is a not good thing. But His Holiness says that we can fight for justice, but without anger, with wisdom, using our discernment, with patience, think through. Find a reason why you are doing this, why it is the right thing to do, why the other person's action or the response, whatever that is, treatment is wrong. If you're able to come up with the rationale through your wisdom, then you will gain this confidence that, okay, truth is at my side, so I can fight this. That's the real courage you need. But if you act what you call impulsively on anger, then you will say things and this thing that can even jeopardize your cause. So it is, I believe that it's not beneficial to act upon anger.
I'm curious about how you would work with old pain, emotional pain, or trauma that maybe reoccurs in the mind. some tools or techniques to help you release that. I'm guessing it's present moment practice, but maybe there's some more insight there you can share.
Yeah, I think what I find useful is the quote from Shantideva. Kede chosu yonani telamika chishi, kede chosu menani telamika chechi pens. You got it? Yeah, Shantideva says that whatever situation that is, you have to examine, you have to analyze whether it is remediable. Can we remedy the situation? Can we do anything about it? If we can do something about it, then instead of feeling bad or sad or angry or worry, do it to fix it. If the situation is such that there's nothing you can do, like when we lose somebody. So when I lost my father to cancer. So this contemplating on this line really helped me pull through, because I was so close with my father, because my mother passed away when I was very young. So because of that, I have this special bond with my father. When my father passed away, it was very difficult. But then I thought about it. My feeling set, my feeling, all this low feeling, will it help to bring him back? It will not. He is gone. No matter how much I dive into sadness and sorrow, that's not going to bring him back. But instead, what will happen is, it will make others unhappy, those around me. Because when you are unhappy, you cannot expect others to be, jolly and, jump about. So there's nothing I can do about it. So since there's nothing I can do about it, why am I doing it? Better not. So that helped me. So I think this is a very, very effective way of dealing with all our problems. Yeah. If all this worrying or feeling sadness, then we can, ask people to come, please. We can pay people to join us in all this, feeling of sorrowness, so that you can solve. But that's not the case. So maybe you can use that.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for your talk. Earlier you mentioned how your mindset creates the outcome of your stress. How would you say anxiety plays into that, and what are some ways to reduce or kind of take control over that?
Yeah, anxiety is very prevalent in this time, especially given the situation with COVID. So what I normally tell people is, first thing is, when you are gripped by anxiety, it is difficult to really rationally think through. So the first way is breathe. Take deep breathing, because the mind, we talk about this, the autonomous nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. One is involved with relaxing, responsible for us to relax. Another one is to prepare us to fight or flee response. So there is connection. So when you take deep breathing, the body sends a message to your brain that it's okay, it's a false alarm. You can come down. No need to, trigger that adrenaline, to get ready. So it's okay. So when you do that long time, it will be able to calm us down. And especially if you are able to, while you are taking these deep breaths, if you are able to focus your mind on the breathing itself. Our ordinary mind cannot focus on two things at the same time. When we are focusing on the breathing, we forget about the other thing that triggered that anxiety. So you will be able to focus. And then once you are relaxed, you feel comfortable to really think through. That's when you use the ABCD model. Believe. So the first one is D. Now dispute. Why I am getting so worked up? Why I am feeling this anxiety? So let's say if we hear, oh, our neighbor has got COVID. Some people get anxiety because, oh, I will get it. But when you really analyze that statement, there's no guarantee that you will get it because your neighbor got it. Sometimes in one family, one person gets it, another person doesn't get it. So it is irrational. So you are disputing that thought. You develop this anxiety because I will get it. There's no guarantee. It is irrational thought. And then if I get it, I will die. That's the fear. But is there guarantee? Have we established this? Once you get COVID, you will die. No. How many million people have got COVID, but how many deaths? Only few die. So all this you can dispute. You fear, you have this anxiety because I will get COVID. When I get COVID, I will die. If I get COVID, I will lose job. I will fail this. I will have this. I will have this. All this happen. But if you are able to dispute each and every one of these irrational thoughts, then you feel, oh yeah, actually that's a wrong assumption. Yeah, I may get COVID, but I may not die. I may get COVID, I may not lose job. Or I may not even get COVID. So why am I so worried about this? Maybe that's one way you can employ.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi, yes, thank you so much for your time. I just had a quick question. Since you believe happiness is like a true state of mind and everything, do you think that anyone can truly achieve like genuine happiness, even if they're in like a super unfortunate situation, say somebody doesn't have a home or food or something like that? Do you believe that they can still achieve like pure happiness?
Yeah, I believe 100%. Because that I can tell from our own experience. Back in the monastery, most of the monks, of course now the time has changed. During my time when we were in monastery, most of the monks, they do not even have a penny in their pocket. And the monastery provides food, which is very, very ordinary, very simple meal. But if you are to measure their happiness and the billionaire's happiness, you will see that huge difference. The billionaires, despite all that wealth, they have so much worry, so much concern. And when there is some president makes a remark that the stock fluctuates, they cannot sleep. Whereas those people who are on the streets, as long as they get their stomach is full, they can have a sound sleep. No worry, no concern. What will happen next? They're just happy. So it is possible, definitely possible. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I wish you all the best. And hopefully we will see another time. Okay, take care. All the best.
It'll be wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.